Yo, what's going on, guys? Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and today I'm going to be talking about why the Houston Texans will beat the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow as the Houston Texans kick off their home season as the Houston Texans face the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow, Sunday at 12 o'clock on Fox at home in Houston, Texas. It will be the home opener for the Houston Texans, where DeMeco Ryans will make his home debut for the Houston Texans. And hopefully you'll get to see C.J. Stroud make his NRG Texans Houston debut. But I don't know. I'm not feeling great about tomorrow. I feel like the Texans can maybe win this ball game, and that's what I'm here to talk about. But I don't know if we'll be able to see C.J. Stroud hit the field tomorrow. I really don't. I mean, Stroud is dealing with a shoulder injury. He's questionable, but with your left tackle, Laremy Tunsil, being questionable as well, it makes me nervous to send C.J. Stroud out there with that offensive line, even if Laremy Tunsil is out there for the Houston Texans, and Stroud only has two of his original starting offensive linemen, and Tunsil and Shaq Mason. But to the possibility of sending C.J. Stroud without Laremy Tunsil, Juice Scruggs, and not only that, Laremy Tunsil, Juice Scruggs, Titus Howard, and Kenyon Green, it kind of scares me, to be honest. It scares me with all the pressure he got last week. Imagine Laremy Tunsil being out there, not being out there, and C.J. Stroud has to deal with that. It kind of scares me, to be honest. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I think Stroud will play tomorrow, and I think Laremy Tunsil will play as well. But if Laremy Tunsil is out tomorrow against the Indianapolis Colts, Stroud is going to deal with a lot of pressure. I know the Ravens have a better defensive line and a better defense than the Colts do, but at the same time, the Texans had Laremy Tunsil last week, and if they don't this week, with Stroud not having a 100% shoulder, definitely could be very hard for C.J. Stroud to deal with. But I still think, even if C.J. Stroud doesn't play, I still think the Houston Texans have a chance of winning, to be honest, with Davis Mills, because Mills is not that bad of a quarterback. He showed some solid stuff in training camp and preseason. And think about this, he didn't have a lot of weapons last season in his second year, and the weapons that C.J. Stroud has this year is way better than the weapons that Davis Mills had last year. If Davis Mills does play in this game and Stroud is out, look at the weapons he'd have, and just by hearing it, you'll just see that it's a way better offense than what Davis had last year. Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, those are just three of the wide receivers. Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie, those are your wide receivers. Here were the three best wide receivers for Davis Mills last year. Brandon Cooks, who was in and out of the lineup, and Nico Collins, who was in and out of the lineup as well. And probably you'd probably say Philip Dorsett was probably the third or fourth best wide receiver on this team. He didn't have John Mechie. He didn't have Robert Woods. He had Nico Collins, but Nico Collins was in and out of the lineup. He didn't have Tank Dell, and he didn't have Xavier Hutchinson as well. And also Dalton Schultz that's tight end, and Devin Singletary at running back. This is a way better offense than it was last year if Davis Mills would be the quarterback tomorrow, and better coaching staff as well. So with a good defense to back up Davis Mills and a good running game and some decent wide receivers, I think the only problem would be the offensive line if Davis Mills plays tomorrow. So I think the Texans would have a shot of winning this ball game, especially the game being at home. I think the Texans have a shot even without C.J. Stroud, to be honest. Call me crazy. But with C.J. Stroud playing, even if he's not 100%, and the offensive line might be terrible and C.J. Stroud might get a lot of pressure, C.J. Stroud and the Texans kept this game close against the Baltimore Ravens last week. Ultimately ended up losing by 16. It was a close first half. They were down 7-6 going into halftime. Eventually, I think they were down 22-9, which is only a 13-point deficit. Their defense kept it close. Their defense did a very good job against the Ravens last week. So if their defense can do that against the Colts this week, which there's not much you have to do against this Colts defense, they don't have much of a run game besides Anthony Richardson. So put a QB spy on Anthony Richardson throughout the game. Try to stop him on the run, which could be hard because he's an elite running quarterback. they don't have that much of a run game. Zach Moss is a solid running back. Jonathan Taylor's out. Not only is Jonathan Taylor out, but the best offensive lineman, Quentin Nelson, could be out tomorrow for the Indianapolis Colts. He is questionable. So I think that's, those are key things to look into this game. On defense, stop the run, and, Derek Stingley Jr. needs to be on his game tomorrow trying to stop Michael Pittman Jr. I think that is a great matchup for Derek Stingley Jr., and it's going to be a hardened matchup for Michael Pittman Jr. I don't know who the Jaguars starting cornerback is, but last week, Michael Pittman Jr. had a great game. He had 8 receptions for 97 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown, and it is clear that he is the number 1 target for Anthony Richardson. So I just feel like Derek Stingley Jr., who wasn't that great, was okay, wasn't perfect in week 1 against the Ravens, needs to have a great game. He struggled at times against Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham Jr., and I think we need to see a really perfect game from Derek Stingley Jr., because it is for sure that Anthony Richardson's favorite target is Michael Pittman Jr., and if Derek Stingley Jr. can be perfect on Michael Pittman Jr., I mean, not absolutely perfect, you can't, just try to make it where Michael Pittman Jr. has a worse game than he did last week, and the Houston Texans put a QB spy on Anthony Richardson and monitor the run game against Zach Moss and Anthony Richardson. This defense should have a good day. I think Will Anderson Jr. has a good day as well. It brings the pressure, especially if Quentin Nelson is out. I think this Texans defense brings the pressure to Anthony Richardson. And I think this Texans has a good game. I think this Texans team have a good game. I think they forced at least two turnovers, maybe 3. They did. The Ravens had 2 turnovers against them last week, almost 3. An interception by Steven Nelson, a fumble recovery by the Texans, and a forced fumble by Tavier Thomas, but the Ravens recovered. And they had 4 sacks and 7 tackles for loss last week against the Ravens. So if the Texans defense can play just as good as they did against the Ravens last week, this Texans defense in at home should have a really good day against the Colts, and their offense just needs to match the energy that the defense is providing, no matter who the quarterback is. The run game, I think, is going to be pivotal for the Houston Texans on offense in this game. Dameon Pierce you're going to need to see a lot from Dameon Pierce in the run game, just in my opinion. He only had 11 carries for 38 rushing yards. I think you need a way more bigger game. I think if I'm the Texans, you give Pierce 15 to 20 carries, which would be in the area of 4 to 9 more carries than he got last week. And I think he'll be better on the run. I think same thing goes for Devin Singletary. He got 7 carries for 15 rushing yards. I think you need to see more for the run for the Texans. Stroud threw 44 times last week. I think you need to see less throws from C.J. Stroud. No complaints about C.J. Stroud. He did a great job. I just think the Texans need to go more to the run game, which they definitely didn't do against the Ravens. But the run game wasn't really working against the Ravens, to be honest. Their run defense was killing the Houston Texans' run game on offense. But I think the Texans' run will get a little bit easier against the Colts. Got to worry about DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard, of course, but I think the Texans will be able to manage it with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. But I think you need to go to the run more, no matter who the quarterback is, whether that's C.J. Stroud or Davis Mills at the quarterback. But I think the Houston Texans get the win. With C.J. Stroud, I think the Houston Texans win 23-20, and the Texans win in a close game between two AFC South teams, and the Houston Texans will win tomorrow. I'm telling you guys, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback tomorrow, as long as it's not Case Keenum, because if Case Keenum's the quarterback tomorrow, the Texans will not win. But whether it's C.J. Stroud or it's Davis Mills, I do believe the Houston Texans will win this game tomorrow. And it's not me praising Davis Mills. It's me praising this defense. I don't think Davis Mills has to do much at quarterback in this game, which we'll need him to provide definitely 2 scoring drives, maybe 3. Actually, probably more than 3. Probably 3 or 4 scoring drives. And the defense might make some of those scoring drives easier. I think the defense is going to be the biggest factor in this game and how good they can be. Can they be as good as they were in week 1? They held the Ravens offense only 7 points in the first half. Lots of sacks, 4 sacks, 2 turnovers on the Ravens offense, and almost 3. If they can do what they did last week, this Texans team is going to have a good day, and have their first win of the 2023 season. If you guys remember your thoughts, that's why the Houston Texans will win tomorrow. And peace out. Go Texans.